All right, guys, welcome back. My name's David here at we're at Casino Quest, but I am teaching as a official CEG instructor. Okay, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over the shooter rules. So everybody walks up to the table, especially if you're new to dice, and they want to know, what I need to do to shoot the dice. So there are rules that apply to how you shoot the dice, what you can do with the dice, and we're gonna go over those right now.
All right, let's get into it.
How you doing, guys? It's David here at Casino Quest. For the last couple months, I've been working with Jeremy at Color Up on a new series where I teach him all about dice from the perspective of the dealer. So we've been going over everything you need to know, like the shooter rules and playing the pass line, the don't pass, order of operations, all those tricks and secrets of being a dealer and things that you could learn as a player to improve your game. So we look forward to joining you here on Casino Quest or at Casino Quest. And of course, don't forget, these videos will also be available on Color Up's channel, so make sure to subscribe there and here as well. So the first cardinal rule is the stick person always has to be able to see the dice. So in that respect, you can't take the dice off the game. You can't give them out to someone next to you. You can't close your hand. You can't close fist the dice. The dice have to, yeah.
Okay.
So if you close fist the dice, now, I've seen a lot of people do this and don't realize that you're technically not allowed. And some casinos will let you get away with it a little bit, but technically, anytime you were to close or palm the dice, you would have to release them, put them down. They would have to move them back into the center of the game, and you kind of have to restart.
Okay.
So believe it or not, in all the years I've been a dealer, I've never once seen someone actually switch dice. I've seen someone try to influence the dice, not just by being a shooter, but with tar on their finger. Okay. Literally like some kind of lubricant that they use.
Like a baseball pitcher, huh?
It was literally like that kind of thing. It was the silliest thing because you could see it on his finger and on the dice. The very first roll was the silliest thing. But anyways, all right, so we're gonna go over a few shooter rules.
Right.
Okay, some really basic shooters. So the one most obvious one is the dealer always has to be able to see the dice. The next one is, and this will vary. Colorado, for example, there's some casinos don't let you set the dice. Here in Vegas, most of the casinos don't care if you set the dice as long as you do it quickly and release. Okay, so that's one of the big differences between like Vegas and out of market. Vegas, not so much a big deal. There's some casinos out of market, especially newer properties. They're like, listen, no setting of the dice. They want you to literally pick them up, shake them in your hand, and throw them down, to the end of the game.
Now, I've heard different things. Like some people are like, well, they're afraid of dice setters. And the other thing I've heard, because they're sweating the money or they're small. And the other thing I've heard is it's a game they want to keep going. You want so many rolls per hour type thing.
That's it.
Which is it?
So I'll be honest with you, it's 80% that they want to keep the pace of the game maintained. Okay. The problem with people that set the dice is some people aren't very good at it, and they'll tend to spend like ridiculous amounts of time finding, you know what I mean? Like,
who you are, guys. Practice.
Yes.
Get quicker at it.
Get quicker at it. So that's really a thing. Like, you take forever. The thing that I know that every supervisor is people that take practice rolls. So like the setters that just set the dice, great. But if you're practicing, especially if you're practicing off the mirror.
What does that look like? What do you mean practice rolls?
So let's say, for example, you have the dice here and you're rolling them backwards for like, you know what I mean? You're trying to run the dice up.
Yeah, I've seen those guys. Well, like they're pushed. Well, how many? Yeah. Is it always 5 that gets pushed to us?
5 and sometimes 6. Some casinos actually have 6 in a set.
Okay.
And they all come serialed, by the way. So every dice is all serialed together.
Okay.
So the dice, like, you'll see the numbers. The numbers should match. Well, 100%.
So I've seen them, and they're throwing them backwards, and I've heard, they're training them, or they're looking for a certain combination, or whatever.
That's it. So, and by the way, that comes from street dice.
Okay.
So street dice, people will practice roll, and then they'll fling them. That's a thing. So,
But that's allowed. You are allowed to do that?
No,
you can't.
I mean, most
I've
places.
I've seen it in casinos.
No, that's what I mean. So it'll vary. A lot of this will vary per casino. So not every casino is hard and stone. It really depends. Sometimes it'll vary per box person. One box person treats it like differently than another box person. That's the whole thing. Even the pace of the game will change based on the box person or supervisor. So in some casinos, when I was a younger dealer, the dice would leave when the dealer was on their last bet. Like, as the dealer is paying their last bet, the dice are coming out from the center of the table, being passed off, because they want to maintain, because they're not making money if the dice are sitting, right? The casino's not making anything if the dice are sitting in the middle of the game. They make money when the dice are rolled, because the greatest chance of that 7 coming, or you know what I mean? But the practice roll thing is, most places will prefer you not to do that. Also, against the mirror, 100% don't throw the dice against the mirror. So if you happen to be sitting, standing there with the mirror, do not throw the dice against the mirror.
Okay.
And if you do the practice rolls, maybe 1 or 2, this kind of thing. But it's definitely frowned on. The other thing is setting the dice. So setting the dice, you really want to get it squared away. Know how to set the dice. I know a lot of guys, they practice at home. That's where they either come to Casino Quest maybe, but or practice at home, kind of figure out where the dice are. But some people will take forever.
Yeah, some of them are like, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, there's my one.
Yep, yeah. That's it. So there's even, I've heard of a casino in Colorado actually has like an 8-second rule. They give you like 8 seconds. I don't know if that was literally per box person, like a box person said that. But I was told that you get 8 seconds, counts it down, and if you don't throw the dice, they're looking for a new shooter kind of thing. I mean, they're very adamant about people not setting.
Yeah, I haven't heard that in Colorado. I have seen the signs in like state line that says no setting.
No setting.
But then people tell me all the time, like, as long as you're quick, they don't care.
As long as you're quick, yeah.
I guess, I don't know.
Yeah. So go ahead.
I just, so you're push some, you can pick any dice you want.
Yep, any two.
As far as throwing them, like, are there any rules like under, overhand?
So you can throw them any way. There's people that do it all those ways. The idea is you don't want to throw them over eye level. And if you throw them overhanded, or even I've seen people like pitch them up like a softball,
I can see
that could also be a little bit high. Dude, I used to deal to a guy that just loved to get them overhead. He felt like the higher they went, the better the odds were. I don't know. He had it all figured out. That's not a thing. You want to keep the dice at least eye level, below eye level. You'll have a supervisor. About? I mean, I'll be honest, I guess it's more about just sort of having a point of view or line of sight and being within the camera's frame of reference. You know what I'm saying?
At some point, you got to set a limit so they're not tossing them up.
Because these are pretty high ceilings, right? So so I've seen a lot of supervisors tell me, now this is from my perspective as a dealer and sort of the experiences I had as a dealer on the table. So a dealer will say eye level, sir, or keep them under eye level. That also keeps the dice on the table. If they tend to be higher, they have a better chance of, jumping off the game, and you don't want to be chasing down. The longer you spend time chasing dice, obviously you're not having a game. You're not getting rolls done because that takes away from the game. As far as the dice influencer thing, boy, we get asked that a lot, especially someone like myself, as whether the casino was worried about the dice influencer. I would say no. I'm honest, to be honest, like I have not. I've seen some people again who have had some success with that, but I've never seen a dice influencer come and just clean out the casino. You know what I mean? That's never been a thing. And I've seen a lot of people who want to be an advantage player on a dice game. So the casinos really aren't worried about it, to be honest with you. As long as you throw the dice and you hit the back wall, that's the other thing. You got to hit the back wall.
Okay, so all the way to the other end.
All the way to the other end.
No matter where you're standing. And I guess that starts halfway.
If you're a little old lady with one arm and 2 fingers, they want you to hit the back wall. Because I've literally had a guy. He's a fantastic. By the way, his name is T-Rex. He calls himself T-Rex. Right. Fantastic human being. He's this tall. Okay. He's a really short guy. Right. As you can imagine, very short arms.
All right.
And his own nickname is T-Rex. By the way, I'm not making that up. And he stands on a little guy with his hands aren't. You have to set the dice up here for him to throw it, and he hits that back wall every time. It's quite something. It's fantastic to even watch him shoot the dice. But that's the expectation, because that back wall randomizes the dice, right? As far as the casino is concerned, if you hit that back wall, everybody's good.
Okay, so question. So I guess that's a courtesy as a disability, but like, I can't. Right. What's the rules as far as?
That's right. The dice always have to be over the table.
Okay.
You don't want to ever. You can't pull them back.
What about the whole blowing having your girlfriend?
It's COVID now, man.
Well, that's true.
You used to be able to blow on the dice a little bit, but no one wants you to blow on the dice anymore.
Right.
That's
it's disgusting.
It is disgusting. It was always disgusting, and now it's more disgusting because it could kill you.
People are aware.
Yeah, people are aware. Yeah.
Okay.
So you can't bring him back. The one thing you can do is, let's say you are standing in line to be a shooter. You can have someone come up and substitute for you as the shooter. You can have your wife, someone step up in lieu of you. You won't get an extra turn. Let's say you had your wife, behind you, and you can have that wife step up, but they have to select the dice. So typically, especially now with COVID, only one person can retrieve and then hand it off to them. No.
Honey, shoot the die.
I've had that happen before, but now with COVID, it's 1 die per person. So once you touch him, they would have to retrieve the dice and pass off another set. You follow?
Okay.
So normally it is one person selects the dice, that person shoots. Whoever selects the dice, that person shoots the dice.
So as long as I make
now.
my bet, I get the dice sent to me, and then I can have my wife step in and roll every time if I'd
roll
like.
for you. Yep. And then you can step back and have them set.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, that's
Cool.
absolutely a thing. I've seen that happen lots of times. No, you can't switch hands. That's a no-no. And if you did that, you would have to normally set them back. And again, so remember, everything I tell you is, there are better dealers, not so good dealers. There are floor supervisor, don't care.
Some are paying attention, not paying attention.
Exactly. So all those things apply. We're just talking about what's supposed to happen. So if you do switch hands with the dice, you're supposed to set the dice down and then switch hands. If you want to use a different hand, set the dice down.
So you can kind of,
you can do that.
Okay, I got to wipe my hands. And
exactly, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. And but if you were to go like this, you would have to normally set them down. They'd have to be returned to the center, and they'd have to check the serial numbers. And again, it seems like a lot of work. To be honest with you, I've never seen anyone switch the dice, ever. And I've even had a dice go in this woman's purse as we looked around for it. It literally landed right. I've had dice go into women's brasiers or breasts. Okay. Yeah, quite. I had one woman in 2 rolls got 2 dice in there.
Okay, there we go.
And they just put them back on the table and they move on with life. Yeah, so that's a thing. But as far as that goes, but it's all about keeping the pace of the game and maintaining game security. Make sure everything is fair. From the casino's point of view, they just want the game to be fair. They want it to be even. Now, that sliding the dice used to be a thing. A lot of people used to slide the dice. Mm-hmm. Not setters so much, but people that weren't knowledgeable. Remember before the internet, not too long ago,
right,
when people were home? And so back in those days, when I was a dealer, people would slide the dice. And then people had a technique. I once saw a guy, he would have one die he would be able to send.
To throw, right?
And then the other one would slide. Yes, you've seen this?
Yeah, so if he set it on slide the 6,
yes. Yep. So it was
combinations.
Yes. So that used to be a thing. So casinos started installing ribs. Mm-hmm. So they would rib the ribbed layout, and so that way one of the dice at least. So technically the rule is forward momentum past the center of the table. It's officially a roll technically. Casinos, however, kind of set their own guidelines and tell the stick person, okay, this is what the expectation is for our casino, and that'll change. Like for example, I worked at a place that allowed a guy to do practice rolls. It was a $3 table, and they needed all the business they can get. And if a guy was betting $100 in the line, they'd let him, practice roll all day long. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, yeah.
And then other casinos, no practice rolls. Every roll they would give them a hard time. And if you don't hit the wall, obviously, you're getting a hard time, after a while, yeah.
So I guess going back to dice setting, I know in the old days it used to be they tried to maybe just hit this and avoid the bumpers.
Yes, they tried to stick the wall.
So what?
Yeah. No, they got to hit the back wall. That would not qualify. I mean, technically,
they rolled
it would
up
be a
gently.
Roll. Yeah. So you're gonna get passed on 1 or 2, but eventually they're gonna start really insisting that you hit the back wall.
Okay.
If they perceive there's a lot of people that are really good at nailing that corner. So back in the day, there used to be that when these when the alligator scale was cut, they would cut it at the corners. So the material wasn't as flexible as it is now, and they would aim for those corners.
Because it was like a flat spot.
Yeah,
right?
it was a flat spot. Okay. Yeah, and they would stick it right there, and they would land it. So that would be sort of taking advantage of the game, and they would tell you that. And by the way, they can make you pass the dice. They can withdraw your ability to roll. So there are people who I've gotten to arguments where they'll have a pass line bet, they'll be shooting the dice. The box person, and they're not reaching the back wall. The box person gets frustrated and said, "Listen, you're no longer the shooter." And they're like, "What are you talking about? I have a pass line bet. I am the shooter." They're like, "No, the casino can take away your privilege of rolling the dice
to the next guy
and go to the next person." Now, what happens if no one else wants to shoot? I've been at a table by it, but we just all sit around and tell stories.
Wow.
Cook marshmallows. Yeah. Oh yeah. I've seen
because they're trying to pass around to the guy.
Yeah, because the guy's shooting. Yeah, the guy was shooting a great roll.
Okay.
And then there's also cases where they feel like the casino is trying to, change up, ruin that flow, ruin that roll. And I've been at tables where they've switched the bowl. You know what I mean? They can't switch the dice until there's some type of unless they feel like the dice has somehow been affected or manufactured, or they go off the table, this kind of thing. But they can't interrupt the roll themselves. You know what I mean? The casino can't. But they can move the shooter. They can't have you pass the dice. And, oh, man, get a lot of flack for that.
So I think we've covered this in an earlier video, but since we're talking about dice, so I toss them to the opposite end. I hit the wall. When is it, not a legal
Not a roll. Good. Okay, if it's on the puck, it's a roll. If it's on a working stack or checks on the game, it's also a roll. If it's high in the dough, it's no mo. It's not a roll. Okay. All right.
I like that.
So it's high in the dough. It's in the bank. It's not a roll. Okay. If it is in the bowl, if it lands in the dealer's bowl, which happens nowadays, the bowls turn upside down because they swap the dice with the. But if it lands in the bowl, it's no roll. If a die goes off the table, it's no roll.
Sure. Close.
If it goes into a tuck, yes.
Chest.
If someone interferes in the roll, if someone hits the dice, actively literally goes and hits the dice, it's no roll. If, however, it should bounce off someone's head, onto their shoulder, onto the table, back onto the table, and they didn't try to...
So if it literally, well, I guess I didn't land.
Yeah. Roll, that's a roll. That's absolutely okay.
As long as I'm not like
But if you tried
down.
to bat it,
Okay.
if you tried to change it or affect a roll in any way, that would not be a roll. Stacked dice are not a roll, and I've actually had this debate. The problem is so let's say, for example, we have a stack of checks, and the die ends up here, okay? So the roll is there as a 5, okay? The roll is a 5 because assuming that we remove this, it's going to be a 5, okay? The same cannot be said for this because let's assume that, hey, first of all, we'd have to touch this dice to call a 5 and a 1, which, by the way, I can even show you that. But if we remove this dice, okay, that way to stay.
It worked,
it's not going to work.
It could tumble.
But you know what I mean? It's going to tumble. It might be something else. There's a whole nother range of motion for that one die remaining. And by the way, if, for example, a die ends up behind a dealer's stack, okay, there's a couple options that the dealer can do. The dealer will either say call it, because they can't, let's say, because the stick person, might not be able to see this die behind the rolls, right? So he'll ask the dealer to call it, and the dealer is instructed to call the total on the dice. So in this case, 7, right? You call the die first. Now let's say, I used to work at a casino that had shading in one area because of the lighting, right? It was a big shadow in one area. So in some cases, let's push this dice over here in the shade. I don't know if they can see that. No. But anyway, so
there's a shadow there.
There's a shadow there. So I would say 5 here. I have a 5 here, and then I'd hope my stick person can see the other one. A 1 there, and then together we call the 6. But either way, the die has to be called before it's affected by either a hand or anything. You can't use the stick on it. The dice have to be called first. Okay. So if I'm doing this, I'm influencing. I'm taking away from that. I have to lift that up. I mean, technically, we know what's under there. I mean, it's not hard to figure that out.
Right, you look at the other numbers around the side.
That's it. We can kind of figure that out. But in order to see it, so with a dealer, so I have a check here. I would call it first. Then I would move my stack, okay, out of the way so that everybody else can see it. And then as a dealer, I put it between 2 fingers, open-handed, and I move the die into the middle of the game. And that's the protocol for sort of getting a die out of the way. But in every other case, so for example, I've seen this a couple of times, leaning against, it's going to be the number facing you. It's going to be the 1. That's all you can see. That's all you can call. I have some of the old alligator skins. It can get stuck in this amazingly if you throw it with it. I don't know if you've seen that.
I've seen it once.
Yeah, that's no roll obviously because you don't know how that's going to end up. Let's see what else. I think that's it. I think we covered all that one. Yeah.
You know, full video about just dice. That's pretty impressive.
I mean, yeah, I know.
There's a lot to it, I guess.
There really is a lot to it.
I mean, we could talk about the sizes. I guess there's 2 predominant sizes dice.
Yes. I see. Those are things I don't know. This is the bigger one. I know there's a smaller version. Depends on where you go, right?
.775 and a .755, I guess.
Wow. So. And then the dice are all mic'd before they're put on a table. They have to be, mic'd and measured, so every side has to be equal, and every side has to weigh. So where you see like there has all these dots on here, but this weighs exactly the same as the one where the 1 is exactly the same. The serial numbers, they're all serialized. All the wrappers are signed on, so most of the standard protocol is as the dice are open, they're inspected, visually inspected, and they're mic'd. They have a mic at the counter. They're mic'd up by whoever the pit manager is. Then they're put back into the wrapper until they're put onto the game. Casino can replace every roll if they want to.
How often? What's normal?
But typically every shift. So every 8-hour shift, they'll replace the dice.
So dice will play for 8 hours?
For 8 hours, typically, yeah. So sometimes, I mean, it's rare, like if the dice are going, if the casino has any suspicion whatsoever, you're supposed to take them off. Like if there's literally anything you feel like might be done with these, especially like I've been a pit manager before. We used to have a guy stack. I was at a casino that didn't mind people stacking, but if you have them do it a lot, it could influence the dice. Not these, I don't think, but you know what I'm saying. And that's why a lot of casinos don't like stackers. Stackers are people that literally stack dice. There's a few shooters that do this because ultimately they feel like it might wear down the dice,
chipping
whatever. Aside, this kind of thing.
So I guess it brings up like rings and different things. Or
I mean, I've never seen it.
Not really a thing.
It's not really a thing. But casinos obviously take every precaution possible to, not be subjected to that either way. So, but yeah, so like if you should throw the die off the table, obviously it's called as no roll. You are allowed to ask for the same dice. You can have the same die returned to you or the same dice returned to you. Because you might not know that's a thing. Automatically,
you feel like it's your lucky dice, or you don't want to swap to a new one.
That's it. Okay. You just keep it going. If the stick man, of course, is there to dump the bowl, that kind of thing, and then he'll try to pass you off some new ones. What else is there?
I don't have any more questions for you.
I'm
sure I'll think of it as soon as we're done with this video. But,
they will perp walk you, by the way. If you try to influence the dice, they will make an example out of you every time, because it's literally illegal. So every state has a gaming board, has some type of enforcement measure. It's written in, codified into state law, and so you will be arrested. The same way, if you try to take this money off the pass line in the middle of a roll, that's illegal. You're stealing. It's called theft. It's a contract bet you have at the casino. Oh, by the way, here's one more thing you should know, right? You got to have, so we know that you need a pass line or don't pass to shoot the dice.
Oh, yeah, this is a
right?
good question, yeah.
You need both. You need one or the other. Now, let's say you have a don't pass. It's not a contract bet. So let's say you pick up your don't pass. You want to go to the bathroom. You want to take your don't pass with you, right? And you're the shooter. What happens? You're not the shooter anymore. You need to be invested in the game on the pass line or don't pass. You would have to pass the dice. The only way to come back as a shooter, because you can't bet the don't pass, well, if you do it before the dice are rolled, you can come back on the don't pass, right? As long as you do it before the dice. Just picking it up or moving it is not a big thing. But once the dice are rolled, obviously, you can't add to the don't pass, the flat bet. Now,
pass posting then, right? Another cheating, right?
Yeah, you can't pass post the don't pass. That's it, another cheating. So, but let's say, for example, you didn't want the don't pass. You could move to the pass line, and that's called a put bet, essentially.
We covered that in a put bet, right.
Yeah.
So one or the other or both?
You can have both.
Some people do that because whatever.
You get zero rating, by the way, if you do that. Your rating is literally zero if you do that. But they do. So what you do is you see people do this. They got a $2 game, basically. Okay. You know what I'm saying? So all you guys out there on those $25 tables, just stop complaining and just go like this.
Make it a 30 and a $25 bet?
27, yeah. $2
I guess
game.
only a $2 game.
$2 game. You know
so it's allowed, it's just kind of annoying.
Yeah, it's really annoying. Yeah, the worst, that's not the way to go.
You're taking up a spot for a guy who wants to play legitimately.
And everybody's looking at you with the evil eye, and they just hate life. But yeah.
You could do it, maybe not.
Yeah, it's not.
Maybe if you're by yourself.
No buffet coupons from betting like this. That's
all right,
the thing.
Cool. The
good?
Dice, huh?
Yeah, that's good. By the way, the dice come in many different colors. The idea is a lot of casinos will try to keep the color kind of so it contrasts with the layout.
Okay.
That's
like this
critical.
Is a little tough to see the red.
This
and purple.
is tough to see, but I have seen casinos completely lose their minds, and they'll have red dice on a red layout. Makes no sense, but there's that. All right, good.
Yeah.
So we'll close this one out. Shooters, some shooter rules for you. What do you think? Good
stuff.
All right, enjoy.